welcome. We are so excited for today's show. It's a mashup of two of Keep Indiana Learning's regular monthly live streams with a very special guest tonight. I'm Marty Hooper, Digital Content Manager for Keep Indiana Learning, and today is the YaySTEM crew of Carissa, Dana, and Elaine, along with the Lit Gals, Anna, Morgan, and myself. So before I turn the show over to Carissa to introduce our guest, I just want to share that I taught middle school for over a decade, and Mrs. Draper, the multiple copies of Tears of a Tiger from my classroom library that were so loved and so tattered. Frankly, I never got to fix them because they never made their way back to the return box because they just went kid to kid to kid to kid. And I'm like, if somebody would hand me the book back, I could fix it, but I wasn't going to drag it out of their hands to put some tape on it. So I just want to thank you, Mrs. Draper, for joining us. Thank you for writing literature that kids want to read from elementary to high school. Thank you. So with no further ado, Carissa, I'm going to turn it over to you for introductions and to get us going today.
Yes, we are so thankful to you, Mrs. Draper. We connected many times over the years when I was in the classroom teaching fourth grade. It was the favorite novel that my students read, Out of My Mind. You were kind enough to connect virtually with us. They watched different webinars that you were on. You signed book plates for us so I could surprise them with an end of the year gift of Out of My Mind, which they treasure because I still talk to students today who tell me they won't even let other people borrow their copy of the book because it's signed and they don't want something to happen to it. So you are making an impact everywhere. And obviously you value education because of what you're doing, but then coming on with us tonight to actually answer questions from our fourth graders here in Plainfield. So when I sent out the call for questions, I had so many questions come in from our fourth graders and students that were so excited. One teacher sent a Google form to students and they could ask up to 4 questions, and almost every single student typed in 4 questions. So I kind of created a lottery and chose a student from each class that submitted. And I think that they're going to be so excited to tune in and hear you answer their question. And on this screen is just a picture of you with some of my students from a couple of years ago. Actually, Elaine's son was in this class this year, and that year that you were with us. So we appreciate you from the bottom of our hearts. And I think we should just go ahead and get started. So Dana, do you have one of the first student questions?
I do. I'm just so excited to be with you today. And from Mrs. Weir's class, we had Andrew, and he asked, where do you get your ideas for your books?
Oh, that's a hard question. Ideas come from life. They come from anything. You know, if I see somebody walking down the street with a purple dog, it's like, oh, how come that dog is purple? You know? And so I said, oh, I should put that purple dog in a book. That would be what a good title for a book, The Purple Dog. So a lot of times things just come from life, just things from incidents, from a lot of times. If you look at the weather, I do a lot of weather in the books. It's raining or it's snowing or it's, but there's always a description of weather because my office sits here and looks out this window. And so if it's raining, I'll put rain in the story, if it's storming, we just had a hurricane. I'm in Florida now. And we just had a hurricane. That's a good thing to put in a story. The disruption, the fear, the destruction, the closeness that the family feels while you're huddling together. And it's a good start for a book. I might put that in the next one. I'm getting ready to start the next book. Not sure what it's going to be about. I just know the main character is a boy. Because the boys have told me, okay, we've read all your books about the girls and we're sick of your stupid girls. So it's been years and years since I wrote the boy story. So the next one is the main character is a boy. That's as far as I've gotten.
I love that. And I love that you're listening to your audience and the kiddos out there that are like, hey, we want to be seen in the books too.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I have the next question. First of all, it is so lovely to meet you and thank you for taking the time today. My question is from Haley in Mrs. Karn's class, and her question for you is, as a writer, what is your greatest fear?
I don't know. I've never thought of having a fear of in my writing. Um, Maybe fear that I won't finish on time, or but I'm on no kind of particular uh timetable. I don't have a fear. Um, it's more of a desire, it's a desire to write something that when a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old picks it up and says, oh man, this is good from the very first page. That's my goal because it's hard to get kids to read today. You've got them on the tablets and the phones and the devices and things. And so for them to physically pick up a book, I have to grab them on page one. I have to, he has to have a bloody nose or a broken leg or something to hold their attention, to keep them reading. So I can hold them once I get them, but you have to catch them. And because I was a teacher, I understand what it's like being in the classroom. I understand what it's like sitting in those hard desks, listening to a boring teacher day after day after day. I understand what that's like. So I can put that aspect of it as there is a dog walking past the house, and that is a mortal sin. You're not allowed to walk past the house. Hush.
Well, Miss Draper, my name's Elaine Townsend. I'm also a teacher. And as Carissa said, my son was in her 4th grade class for the most magical year of his life. And he lent me his worn out copy of Out of My Mind. I was not allowed to touch the one that you signed. And I have to say, I love to read. And your book was absolutely breathtakingly wonderful.
Thank you.
I told the girls, I said, I could not believe it was through the eyes of a teacher. And I wanted to climb into your book and I wanted to just shake those mean little girls. And I cried and I laughed. And I totally understand why my 13-year-old boy loves your books. And so thank you for what you're doing for
Yeah.
kids, to get them reading and getting them thinking and making them understand not everybody's nice and that we have to think about people differently. So I
Right.
really appreciate what you've done. Haley, who asked the question from Miss Karn's class, had a follow-up. She wanted to know what your greatest obstacle is.
The greatest obstacle, probably organization and time management. Like, okay, turn off Netflix and sit down and write something, that kind of thing. Focus. But this room I'm in now is my little office, and there's no TV in here. So, this is where I work, and I get up early in the morning, sometimes, 6 o'clock in the morning, and have a bowl of Frosted Flakes, and then I'm ready to go. And I will write all day long, and sometimes write until late in the night. And then what I have written is mess, because then you have to go back and revise it. And that's what young people don't understand, is that everything that I write, it's perfect on day one. It's a mess. And then I go back and I say, oh, that's a good point, or that's not going to work. Or sometimes I'll remove a whole character. Like, I don't like that character. I'll take that character out. Or I'll add a character, or I'll add an aspect to a character. I'll let her get hurt, or I'll let her bleed, or I'll let her, stub her toe or something, so that you have to keep the interest, because young people are not going to continue to read unless every single page is like, oh, I want to know what's going to happen next. Oh, what's going to happen next? And that's my job, is to engage them and hold them. And that's hard to do.
Mrs. Draper, thank you so much for that. I think that our students, our kids need to hear that you have an organization and that you also do a lot of revisions.
Oh,
What is best for the book, right? And the
so
story.
much revision. And after I have revised it 47,000 times and it's perfect, I send it to my editor, and my editor is like the teacher supreme, like turning it into your hardest teacher. That's turning it into my editor. And I've worked it and I've fixed it and I revised it and I've made it perfect. And she'll send it back and she'll say, it's a nice start, dear. And then we go into the editing process. She is a very, very hard editor, but she's the reason that the books are so good, is because she makes me make it better. And
I love that.
and
I
so,
love that.
you have to be willing to listen. And she'll say, okay, now he's walking down the street for 2 hours and 15 minutes. I am bored. If I'm 12, I know I'm going to be bored. Let's have something happen. Let him stub his toe. Let him, run out in the street. Let him get rained on. Let him lose his homework. Something has to happen, because kids today have to be engaged every single minute. And unless your writing is holding them in and pulling them in, it's not going to work. So we do
Thank
a
you.
lot of revisions, a lot.
Thank you. Good
Capital.
to know.
Yes.
Good to know. Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to talk about this wonderful movie now. It is available on Disney Plus, and it's reaching a whole new audience, isn't it? Which
Yes.
we just love.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot in the Lit Gals about when a book becomes a movie. And a lot of authors have problems, concerns, etc., when it does become the movie. And I wanted to ask you, as an author, how do you stay connected to the making of that movie?
You don't.
So how do you stay connected with the making?
You have to let it go. You can't stay connected, because I'm a writer. I write the stories, but the people who make movies, they are movie makers. They know how to make movies. I don't know how to make a movie. So I have to sit back and let them take over. And the movie that they made is not necessarily the movie I would have made, but I tell kids all the time, I don't know how to make a movie. So I let the experts make the movie, because that is their field and they know how to do that. And so, I tell them that anything that you do in life, if you are working on something, let's say you're an artist, you have to go to the next level to get your art evaluated, or, get somebody to improve it, or let's change this from red to green in this scene or whatever. So, it's all a learning process. In the whole movie making process, I learned so much. And I got to go, they let me go and watch them film it for a few days.
Oh,
I
how
actually got to
wonderful was
go on
that?
set and see them actually film, give the boom things that hang down. And
Uh-huh.
when it rains on scene, it's not really raining. There's a big sprinkler system, and they pull it down, and so that the characters are getting rained on. It's really cool. I learned so much.
Oh, that's fabulous. And what a professional you are to let it go and to say, movie makers, you're the professional, and
Exactly.
I trust that you will do the right
Yeah.
thing and do the best thing.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Thank you.
The guy who made the movie, he and I have been friends for 10, 15 years. And he told me 10 years ago, I'm going to make a movie out of your book. I said, okay, let's see you do it. It took him a while, but he got it done.
Mhm. It was fabulous. It's fabulous.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I said, Dan, I've got 20 more books, so let's get on this.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. And I will tell you, as I travel around and work in the schools in the district and I run into former students, right up until the movie was getting released, teachers and students were stopping me. You remember it's coming out on Netflix. Are you going to watch it the night that it comes out? So they've been really anticipating this entire, just the release of the movie because they have been talking about it for a long time. And I
Very
feel
long.
like the release kind of got pushed. And so they've been very excited and they've gotten their families to read the book and pass the book on to others. And I think that that is really special. We did have another question from a student named Ava in Mrs. Gray's class, and she was curious what your favorite part in the movie is or was. What is your favorite
Uh,
part in the movie?
sure. The they did such a good job of telling the story on film. And the fact that Melody has cerebral palsy and they chose an actress who actually has cerebral palsy, not somebody who was faking it and pretending. And it was it gave an extra level of reality because she actually does have cerebral palsy. And so she knew it was coming from her soul, from her inside. She knew exactly what she was doing. She was a fine little actress.
Oh, I thought that was wonderful too. Um, and so as we're getting ready to wrap up, here's what I heard you say. All of the things you're doing as this grown adult and an author who has written for years are all of the things that the kids are doing in the classroom with, taking their time and trying to get organized and revising and realizing that their first chance at something isn't always their best and it's okay to go back and erase and add. Would you say that you have any other advice for our young students, older students watching, just with, trying to reach their goals and power through writing? Because writing, you know, they, you can love to read, but writing can be really a struggle for you as a student. So, any last tips that you can pass on or pieces of advice to students?
Well, I always tell young writers to look, focus on the five senses, you know, like the sense of smell, funky underarms. That always gets them, what does it feel like if you're walking barefoot in the snow? Believe it or not, it's not cold, it's hot. The feeling of cold, of snow on your naked feet is hot, so you got those comparisons. I tell them to work on the sense of sound and smells. What does the room smell like on Thanksgiving Day? Describe in detail what those smells are. There's nothing more unique than Thanksgiving Day or Christmas Day, what it smells like in a family kitchen. Uh, what does it smell like when a guy is coming off of the basketball court and he's played for an hour? What does he smell like? And kids go, ugh. I said, yeah, but that's reality, and if you walk past him, you know what he smells like. So describe it in your story. So use the five senses, use them liberally and make sure that you're describing what's in your mind so that the reader can see what's in your mind and you're on the same page, literally
Yeah.
on the same
Yeah,
page. Yeah,
it's all the things that draw them to your books, right?
right,
The way that they can just picture everything happening, they can think to write like that as well to try to
right.
draw their audience in. I love that. You said something one time to one of my classes about how you don't write about something that you haven't experienced yourself. And that has stuck with me all of these years when you talked about horseback riding and swimming and all of those things. I just think that that's really powerful that you are not just making up a story as you go, but you've experienced it yourself. So that has stuck with me all these years.
I took horseback riding lessons so that I could describe that one scene in out of my mind when Melody gets on a horse. Because what does a horse feel like? What does a horse smell like? What is the skin of the horse? It's so very smooth, but so huge. And so I had to, I experienced everything. She goes on a zip drive on a zip ride when she goes to camp. I had to do that. That was not fun, but I did it so that I could properly describe it. So, because and kids say, well, it was like I was there. I said, well, I was there. So I wrote it down so that you could see, what that felt like, or what that smelled like, or what that seemed like. And I tell them all the time, focus on the five senses, and Thanksgiving, Christmas, the smells of Christmas, the smells of a meal, the smells of dinner, the smells of family, describe the smells, describe the taste, describe what you can hear, what are the sounds, the laughter of the children, you know all of those things. It's the little tiny details that can be overlooked, but that's what makes a story come to life.
I love all of this so much. And I know that our audience tuning in is soaking up every word that you're saying. So thank you so much for sharing so much of your passion with us. We can't thank you enough. And we were so glad that you took time out tonight to chat with us and to connect with our community here in Indiana and beyond. So we can't wait to read your next story with this little boy or boy character. We're not sure little. I said little. You didn't say little. So
I'm not sure. I haven't even started yet. All I know is that he will be a boy. That's
Okay.
as far as I've gotten. But it's going to be something I'm trying to engage the young men into reading. So it's got to be graphic, it's got to be funky, it's got to be smelly, he's got to get into trouble, he's got to, I want him to be a real well-rounded character. He has to have a supported family. He has to have, he's got to have issues. He's got to have problems. He's got to have bad breath. He's got to have, all of that. And because that's what kids, their life, I'm trying to get real life in a story.
that is amazing. And this is why you're such an amazing author and an amazing person. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And we hope we can connect again soon.
Oh, I'll be glad to anytime.
Thank
This,
you.
if the kids have follow-up, or if you want to do a follow-up Zoom, sometime in the next few weeks, I don't care. I'm here.
Okay, the kids heard that, so they can get
Yes.
questions to us and we can follow up with you. That would be amazing, Mrs.
Yeah.
Draper. Well, thank you so
I'd be glad
much.
to.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, well, thank you so much.